What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And in this video, I'm going to go over my full card, picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 50, Santos versus Ankalaev. First things first, please hit that like button, make friends with that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. So UFC 272 just happened last night, and overall, it was a good night. I went 9-4 on my picks, and I ended up winning plus 6.47 units profit. So that makes 3 winning cards in a row, so let's keep the momentum rolling. Some of the highlights for me for UFC 272 were from Moraes, Mitchell, and Covington. And let's see if you can see a trend here. So Moraes came out against Agapova and completely dominated her with her grappling. She basically just smothered her the whole first round, almost got a submission attempt, and then once the second round hit, Agapova had 0 gas tank left, and she looked exactly like she did in the Dobson fight where she just went all out in the first round. And officially, Agapova has made my fade list, so I will not be betting on her ever again. I just cannot trust that cardio anymore. And with Mitchell, again, looked completely dominant. He used his grappling the whole 3 rounds, pretty much made Edson Barboza look like a bum, I'm not gonna lie, and he's really good. And I did think Barboza was gonna give Mitchell some problems, but clearly Mitchell is the truth. I know this now. I will be betting on Mitchell a lot more. And with Covington, we all knew this was gonna happen like that. Covington was gonna use his wrestling to dominate, and he completely did. Masvidal had no answers for it, and it was all 5 rounds. Colby Covington dominated that fight, and clearly he is the #1 contender in the welterweight division. It's him and Usman at the moment. I do think Covington does need one more fight before a championship fight with Usman again, but it can be maybe the winner of Burns and Chimaev, or even the fight between Muhammad and Luque. Either one of those winners would be a great fight for Covington. And of course, what's a UFC pay-per-view without lowlights? So let's get to the lowlights. So in the Elliott Ulambekov fight, how many times does someone need to cheat before he gets a warning? I mean, it was clear that Elliott was grabbing the gloves of Ulambekov, and a couple of the times where he was grabbing him, he ended up hitting some shots right to the face. So it was definitely illegal, and I don't know why he didn't get warned once. And also with that fight, I did have Ulambekov winning 29-28. It wasn't a robbery by any means. I thought it was a close fight either way. But again, the judges, I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing something different. Maybe they're judging it differently. But I'm not gonna, like I said, not gonna say robbery with that fight, but I did have it Ulambekov winning. And since I can't say their last names, I'm gonna say let's jump into the Nick and Cannetti fight. And I will admit, I had a bet on Nick as the underdog. I thought he was gonna pretty much come in and dominate, maybe get the KO in the first or second round. And yeah, that is a fight I believe should have been a draw at best. I don't know how on earth you could have gave Nick that win clearly, and I think the judges got that wrong. I'll admit, I ran with that bet. I'm humble. I am not gonna say that Nick won because like I said, I thought it was gonna be a draw, and I was personally okay with getting my money back with a draw, but they gave Nick the win. The judges, I tell you, there's always 1 or 2 fights and on every card that the judges just totally look at a different fight than I think everybody else does. But alright, enough of UFC 272, so let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 50. So the first fight we have is Nchukwi versus Azamat Murzakanov. Nchukwi is 6-1, 27 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach. And Murzakanov is 10-0, 35 years old, 5'10 with a 71-inch reach. So this is a good fight to start the night off, and I'm going to go with the underdog here, and I'm going to say that Nchukwi wins this one. So both guys have pretty good striking and also have really good power, but Nchukwi is going to have a 6-inch reach advantage, and I think that's going to play a big part in this fight. And another thing that I really like about Nchukwi is if it does get up against the fence in the clinch positions, he's really good with them. He has really good knees. He has good elbows as well. And I know Murzakanov can wrestle a little bit, but I just think Nchukwi is going to be the bigger fighter, the stronger fighter. He's a little bit younger as well, and I think he's going to end up catching Murzakanov eventually in the second or third round. So with my pick, I'm going to say Nchukwi gets the upset here and gets the knockout in the second round. Next fight we have is Guido Cannetti versus Chris Moitano. Cannetti is 8-6, 42 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. And Moutinho is 9-5, 29 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. So yeah, this fight is actually on a UFC Fight Night card. And let's be honest, this looks more like a regional promotion fight, but this is where we are. So with my pick, I'm gonna lean towards the Moutinho side. So this is the definition of a low-level MMA fight, and I'm basically just gonna be backing my pick on Moutinho's toughness against Sean O'Malley when he took about 230 strikes to the head. Because if you can keep pushing forward and Sean O'Malley is just piecing you up, then at least you got durability and cardio. And with Cannetti being 42 years old, hasn't really been winning in the UFC, not really that great of a fighter, I'm going to say Moutinho does eventually gas out Cannetti in the second or third round and get a KO finish here, just because Cannetti just can't even make it to the end of the fight. So with my pick, I'm going to say Moutinho wins by knockout. Why not? Moving on up the card, we have Cody Brundage versus Dalcha Lungiambula. Brundage is 6-2, 27 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. And Dalcha is 11-3, 34 years old, 5'8" with a 76-inch reach. So this is going to be a close fight. And honestly, I'm going to go with the underdog here again, and I'm going to say Brundage wins this one. So Brundage has really good wrestling, and he does have some power in his hands as well. And Dalcha is more of a striker with really good power, but he does wrestle at times. But the problem for me is Dalcha is such a big guy in the middleweight division, and as the fight goes on, he does fade a little bit with his cardio. He slows down a bit. And I think Brundage can take advantage here in this position, especially if he uses his wrestling and he pushes him up against the cage and gets him to the ground just to wear him down. So for me in this fight, if Cody can stay safe in the first few minutes of the fight and get a couple takedowns here and there, I do think he's going to be able to grind out a decision. So with my pick, I'm going to say Brundage wins by decision. Next fight we have is Sabina Mazo versus Miranda Maverick. Mazo is 9-3, 24 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. And Maverick is 9-4, 24 years old, 5'3" with a 65.5-inch reach. So this is going to be a good fight here. Both fighters are coming off 2 losses, even though that we all know that Maverick shouldn't have lost against Macy Barber because that was one of the worst robberies of UFC history. But let's not go down that rabbit hole. So with my pick, I'm going to say that Maverick wins this one. For me, Maverick is going to be the more well-rounded fighter. She has pretty good striking, and she does have good wrestling when she goes for takedowns. And since she is going to be the smaller fighter in this fight, I do think she needs to lean more on her wrestling. And Mazo has very good technical striking, really good boxing, but she's not that fast with her strikes, and she is kind of hittable. But the way I do see this fight playing out is I think it's going to go to the judges' scorecards, and it just depends on if Maverick can get some takedowns, which I do think she can because Mazo's takedown defense is only 66%. And if she can do that, I think she'll be able to cruise to an easy decision win. So with my pick, I'm going to say Maverick wins by decision. Next fight we have is Damon Jackson, Kamuela Kirk. Jackson is 19-4-1, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. And Kirk is 11-4, 27 years old, 5'10" with a 75-inch reach. Alright, so we got a grappler versus grappler showdown here. And with my pick, I am again going to pick another underdog. And I'm going to say Damon Jackson wins this one. So as I said, both guys are really good grapplers, but I will give Jackson the slight edge. I do think he's a little bit more crafty on the mat, a little bit more slicker with his submissions. But in the striking department, it's very close. I would maybe give Kirk the edge just because I do think he has a little bit more power. And that is something to worry about for Jackson because he is a little chinny, but I mean, he did get knocked out by Topuria, who's going to be a contender in the division very soon. So Jackson's path to victory for me is to get this fight to the mat, test Kirk's grappling abilities, because I do think he has the better grappling. And not to mention, Kirk's takedown defense is only 58%, so I don't see Jackson having any problems getting this fight to the mat. I do think Kirk's going to be able to fend off any submissions though, so with my pick, I'm going to say Jackson wins by decision. Moving on up the card, we have Trevin Jones versus Javid Basharat. Jones is 13-7, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. And Basharat is 11-0, 26 years old, 5'9", with a 69-inch reach. So I don't want to say this is a no-brainer pick of the night, but this is one of my most confident picks of the night, and I'm going to say Basharat wins this one. So Jones is a pretty good striker, and he does have really good power in his hands, but he's not very technical with his striking. And Basharat is very well-rounded. He has really good technical striking, he's very quick on his feet, and he has really good wrestling and grappling with good submissions as well. And I don't want to get too much in this breakdown because I think Basharat is better everywhere in this fight. I don't see him losing in any sort of way. But I do think Basharat can get this fight to the mat and wrap up an easy submission on Jones. So with my pick, I'm going to say Basharat wins by submission in the first round. Next fight we have is JJ Aldrich versus Jillian Robertson. Aldrich is 10-4, 29 years old, 5'5", with a 67.5-inch reach. And Robertson is 10-6, 26 years old, 5'5", with a 63-inch reach. So this is going to be a good fight here, and I'm going to pick Robertson to win this one. So this is a classic striker versus grappler matchup, and it's as simple as that when I break this down. Aldrich is going to be the better striker by far, and Jillian's going to be the better grappler by far. And it really depends on if this fight's going to play out on the feet or if it's going to play out on the mat. Because if it plays out on the mat, it's Jillian Robertson is going to win all day. And that's how I see this fight happening. I do think Jillian's going to be able to get Aldrich on the ground eventually. And after that happens, it's only going to be a matter of time before Jillian gets a submission. So with my pick, I'm going to say Jillian gets a submission in the second round. Next fight we have is Matt Semelsberger versus AJ Fletcher. Semelsberger is 9-3, 29 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach. And Fletcher is 9-0, 25 years old, 5'10", with a 67-inch reach. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Semelsberger wins. Fletcher is going to be making his UFC debut after winning on the Dana White Contender Series. And he's a solid striker with some power, but make no mistake about it, he's a wrestler. He wants to get this fight to the mat. And Semelsberger is a very good striker with a lot of power as well, and he does have pretty good wrestling himself. But for me, the one thing that really sticks out is Semelsberger is going to have an 8-inch reach advantage, and that's going to be massive in this fight. Semelsberger has very good jabs and straights, and I do think eventually he's going to be able to catch Fletcher with one of those. And if Semelsberger can stuff the takedowns of Fletcher early on, I don't see how Semelsberger loses this fight. So with my pick, I'm going to say Semelsberger gets the knockout in the third round. Moving on up the card, we have Bruno Silva versus Alex Pereira. Silva is 22-6, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. And Pereira is 4-1, 34 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach. Alright, so this is definitely one of the fights that I'm really looking forward to, and it's going to be fireworks for however long it lasts. But with my pick, I'm going to say Pereira wins this one. So definitely both guys are strikers with huge power and they're very explosive. But Pereira is going to be the much taller fighter, and with a 6-inch reach advantage, I think that's going to play a huge part in this fight. And I know Pereira only has 5 MMA fights under his belt, but he is a really good kickboxer, and he is the only person to ever knock out Adesanya. So that tells you something right there. And I know Silva is very dangerous, like I said, but a little red flag for me from him was when he fought the Beverly Hills Ninja, he looked like he was in trouble early on, and luckily Jordan Wright has a glass chin because he was able to recover enough to knock out Jordan Wright. If that happens in this fight, I don't think he's going to be that lucky. So with my pick, I'm going to say Pereira eventually gets the knockout win here in the first round. Next fight we have is Drew Dober versus Terrence McKinney. Dober is 23-11, 33 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach. And McKinney is 12-3, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 74-inch reach. Alright, so another fight that I'm really looking forward to, and Terrence McKinney is taking this fight on short notice, and I am picking him to win this fight as well. I'll be honest, I think this is a very winnable fight for McKinney, and that's probably why he took this fight. So both guys are very explosive strikers with good power, but McKinney is going to have the wrestling and grappling edge, and it's not even close whatsoever. And another thing to note here, Dober's been submitted 4 times in his career, so if McKinney can get this fight to the mat just like he did in his last fight against Zayam, I can see McKinney getting a first round submission again. But if this fight's going to play out on the feet, it's going to be really close because like I said, both guys are good strikers and they both have power. So if I was McKinney, I would try to go for the takedowns early, try to tire out Dober and get the submission just like he did in his last fight. So with my pick, I'm going to say McKinney wins by submission in the first round. Moving on up the card, we have Khalil Roundtree versus Carl Roberson. Roundtree is 9-5. 32 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. And Roberson is 9-4, 31 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Roundtree gets the job done. So for me, Roundtree is going to be the better striker, but I do think Roberson's going to have the grappling edge, and I know that Roberson's been submitted a decent amount in his career, but if he does want to try to get this fight to the mat, I think he's going to have an advantage. But the problem is Roberson doesn't really use his wrestling or grappling that much because he only averages about 1 takedown per fight. And another thing to point out here too is Roberson usually fights in middleweight, so he's moving up to light heavyweight here. So we'll see how he looks up a weight class. But for me, I think Roundtree is going to be too much for Roberson on the feet, and Roberson's going to try to go for a takedown or two, and I just think Roundtree is going to be able to stuff them, keep this fight on the feet, and eventually get a knockout. So with my pick, I'm going to say Roundtree gets a knockout in the second round. Next fight we have is Alex Caceres versus Sadiq Yusuff. Caceres is 19-12, 33 years old, 5'10" with a 73.5-inch reach. And Yusuff is 11-2, 28 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. So in this fight, I'm going to say that Yusuff wins. So I know Caceres has been on a roll lately, winning 6 in a row. And he did look very impressive against his fight with Choi. But I'll be honest, I do think Yusuff is the better fighter in this matchup. I think Yusuff's going to be the better striker, and that's where I see this fight mainly playing out because I don't see Caceres trying to wrestle or grapple with Yusuff. Though I will say Caceres is a veteran, he's a savvy guy, and he's a little bit unorthodox with his striking, so that may give Yusuff some problems early on. But once he does get his reads, and as the fight goes on, I think Yusuff's going to take over in the second and third round. So with my pick, I'm going to say Yusuff wins by a 30-27 or 29-28 decision. Next fight we have is Marlon Moraes versus Yadong Song. Moraes is 23-9-1, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach. And Song is 18-5-1, 24 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. So co-main event time here, and yeah, this is a no-brainer pick for me, and I'm going to say Yadong Song wins this one. And I'll be honest, I cannot back Moraes whatsoever after being knocked out 4 times in his last 4 losses. And I know he's a very dangerous striker in the first round. He has really good kicks, but he only has 1 round of gas in him to get that KO. And I think Song is well-rounded enough to weather the storm in the first round. Song has very good striking as well, and he also can wrestle if he wants to. But if you go back to the Arce fight, he looked very impressive against a very good striker in Arce. So for me, unless Moraes can land some fluky kick that knocks out Song in the first round, I don't see how Song loses this fight. So with my pick, I'm going to say Song gets the knockout in the second round. Alright, main event time here. We have Thiago Santos versus Magomed Ankalaev. Santos is 22-9, 38 years old, 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. And Ankalaev is 16-1, 29 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Alright, so this is going to be a very good fight, and it pains me to do it because I really like Santos. I gotta pick Ankalaev here. So both guys are really technical and powerful strikers. But I think Santos is a step or 2 behind Ankalaev. But I will say Santos does have the experience. He's fought the better competition. And it's going to be a tough test for Ankalaev, no doubt about it. I do see the fight playing out on the feet. But if it does go on the mat, I will give Ankalaev an edge on that one. So I don't see any finish in this fight actually. I think both guys are going to respect each other in the first couple rounds. And then as the fight goes on, I think Ankalaev is going to slowly take over in rounds 3, 4, and 5. So with my pick, I'm going to say Ankalaev wins a close decision, maybe 48-47. but it's gonna be a lot closer than the line looks, so I don't know if I'm gonna touch that line whatsoever. Alright guys, so those are my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 50. Thank you everybody for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, and until then, happy fight night.